Welcome to Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights, a podcast by coaches for coaches. Our guests share their hard-won wisdom to help you grow your coaching business and create a life of success. So get ready to unlock the blueprints to your success. Welcome to today's episode. I'm grateful that you're here, and I'm grateful to have Anik Malenfant here. Her company is Mastering Ascension, and she is an empowerment coach. So I'm excited for this conversation. So welcome to the show, Anik. Nice to have you here.
Hello, Jeannie. Thank you so much for this incredible conversation. I'm already excited about what we're going to be talking about today.
Oh, I love that. I love that. So you have to tell us, how did you become an empowerment coach? Because I'm pretty sure that's not on the agenda in high school or maybe in college. So tell us a little bit about your journey.
Yes, you're so right. And in a way, that's a little bit how my journey started, because I started with that template. Figure out what you can do that makes money and then you'll be happy. So that was the train that I was on until one moment, the emotional debt that I was carrying was like an elephant of dread sitting on my chest when I woke up. And I dared to ask the question, and I invite everybody else to ask themselves this question, is there's got to be more to life than this. So I had been on the stock market for over 15 years. I was successful. I had a corner office overlooking the water, drove an Audi, all the things. When I started to ask that question, lots of things started to stir up with me. More questions came up, more realizations. I can't stop doing what I'm doing. I've got schooling, licenses, pensions, financial security. What else would I be doing? And what I love about when you ask the universe a question, it will find the most beautiful ways to find you the path forward. And very quickly, I was brought into this world of energetics. I started learning about quantum physics. I started understanding that the world that we live in is only the 0.00001% of matter. And that's what we focus on, and not the 99999% of energy that is actually what the universe is made of. And so my work into energetics and holistic health eventually led me to empowerment coaching, because what I discovered is when we tune in to that inner wisdom, and we allow it to support us in being led, we're making decisions for us, by us, in our highest, for our highest outcome. And that is really the source of personal empowerment. When you are living your best life for yourself, and then everyone gets to benefit from the best version of you. And so really, for me, empowerment really starts from within. So like you said, it wasn't on the checklist of things that you could do when you meet with the counselor. It was something that the universe led me to. From even after a few years of doing this work, I realized that those one-off sessions, an hour here, an hour there, really weren't supporting the clients that I were working with in a meaningful way. For some, it was actually a band-aid. They were using self-care as a band-aid instead of addressing the underlying core issues. And one of the gifts that I discovered that I have through self-discovery and through all my training is pattern recognition. And so the capacity to put the dots together of why all of this seemingly random stuff is happening and what is the pattern that needs to be reconciled so that the person can move out of that stuckness, that toxic cycle that they keep recreating. And so when I leaned into that, I realized change doesn't happen in 1 hour, although you can make extreme leaps in 60 minutes. But really, when we look at embodiment, where real change is anchored, it takes 12 weeks to create a new habit. So that's when I changed to more of a coaching model and really leaned into the focus of empowerment. Because what I discovered is empowerment is that beautiful key that whether you're having an issue in your relationship, whether you're having problems with your kids, whether you're having problems with money, whether you want to do better in your work, get promoted, get hired, when you are in your empowered energy, the universe says yes back to you. So that's essentially how I found my way here to doing this work that I so deeply love. And it's also so deeply tied to my story of disempowerment, always choosing the external validation rather than that internal satisfaction. And when I switched that, I discovered my own empowerment. And now I'm addicted to sharing that with everybody else.
I love that. You're such a perfect example of people who go in one direction, the corporate corner office, success, money, everything that comes with that, to completely 360 around to thinking about internally and what's happening and what's inspiring you. I love that. And I love what you said. The universe finds beautiful ways to bring it to you when you start looking for it. It's funny that you were talking about pattern recognition, and my husband and I were just watching a show last night. I think it's on Netflix, and I honestly can't remember the name of it, but it's 4 women who worked in right after the Second World War, and they were in the offices where they deciphered all the
The
passwords
code
and the code
breakers.
breakers.
Yeah, I can't
That's it.
remember the name of it either. I haven't watched it, but I do know what you're referring to. Yeah.
It's so good, but they're taking their talent in looking at patterns and turning it into solving this particular murder because they know, they understand, they see all the different things happening. So tell us a little bit about how you work with your clients.
How That's a beautiful question. How I work with them on in a logistical is at a distance. So we work over Zoom, over sessions. My minimum coaching program is 3 weeks. And the first week is a little bit of a boot camp where I put them through the foundations. Because what I've discovered is we can do really big, beautiful work. But if they don't have the foundations to really solidify the growth that they're going to create in their life, then just putting too much weight on something, the foundations start to crack. So no matter what level of growth my clients have lived, whether it's none or they've been at these inner work game for a while, we always go through the foundation programs first because we want to reinforce their current foundation to support them and prepare them for the bigger life that we're creating for them. So usually my programs include guided meditation, theta healing, which is a type of subconscious reprogramming. So we get right into the subconscious reprogramming in that way. I use journaling prompts, somatic practices. I've got over 30 different certifications in different modalities. So how I really show up for them is I connect to their energy and I tune into what is the tool in my toolbox that is going to best support them in this now moment to get them to this next phase. And that's really the core of how I work with people. I do have a structure in my coaching program, but when I'm actually deciding what homework's going to look like or what the session's going to be, it's really about tuning into their inner wisdom. And for that period that I work with them, I act as that in between their inner wisdom and their conscious awareness until they develop to have that inner dialogue and that trust within themselves solidified so they start to lead their healing, which is such a beautiful thing to watch that shift happen.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would imagine watching that shift is seeing them stand up straighter, feel more confident, speak more clearly about and more articulate and more from an emotional standpoint, which is always more effective when they're speaking. If you speak from the heart kind of thing.
Exactly. And what's really fun is seeing them go from knowing what it is to living it, right? Because we all know what we should be doing. Let's be real. Every one of us knows what we should be doing, how we should be feeling, what shouldn't bother us, what we should be focusing on. But when it comes to those subconscious patterns, that's why we're not doing the thing. That's why we're not thinking positive thoughts. So that's why we're not feeling good about ourselves. And so when we get down to it and that shift happens, and I watch them really step into their empowered space, that I love. For me, that's like the sparks go off, fireworks, happiness.
I love that. I'm just trying to find the words. Oh, so I was talking to a friend of mine just about this yesterday. We were talking about not eating the right foods and not exercising and all that. We were talking about it and we came up with it's a fulfillment thing. You want to feel fulfilled so that you don't have the craving, so that you're not looking for the next thing that's going to make you feel better. You're finding that more from inside. Would you say that's accurate?
Yes. And this is where discernment is actually really plays a big part in the coaching work that I do because your subconscious is going to be like, I want to eat this food because it's going to make me fulfilled, but it's actually a coping mechanism because you're avoiding this other thing. Or maybe even like on a nutrition level, sometimes you crave chocolate if you need magnesium or something, right? So having that discernment to be like, do I really want this pastry? Or do I really need emotional nurturing? And then being able to pattern disrupt that coping mechanism. So the way that I look at coping mechanisms as they're either supporting you or they're holding you back and creating disruption in your life. And there can be too much of a good thing. I've seen coping mechanisms where people go to the gym and their whole life revolves around that. And if they get injured, they go into depression because they can't go to the gym. So then it becomes that the coping mechanism is just a different form of addiction, but it's a socially approved one. And so when we look at our basic foundational needs, it's looking at what is the most supportive coping mechanisms that you can utilize that will fulfill your needs, that will keep you in harmony with all of yourself.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at that in my work is the Danish is not good or bad. The fifth Danish, we might want to explore what's going on, right? What is it that whenever something happens, you reach for the carb, which is such a common thing for us to do socially, right?
Yeah,
And that really
absolutely.
speaks to emotional nourishment as a general pattern.
Yeah, I love that discernment. And there's also a concept whereby you might not move forward because of fear. Do you address that as well? Because sometimes people are like, this is my security. Yeah, I need that chocolate. That's where my go-to. Don't take that away from me. And it's because they're just fearful of what would be next. What if I can't eat it ever again?
And that's such a powerful question because, in all honesty, the core of my work is addressing the fear because we don't not change to a positive coping mechanism because it feels safe. We stay in our patterns even when they're working against us because we're afraid of the unknown, the uncertain, the unseen. And that is such a deep subconscious fear that I would say is, I want to say 100% of my work is addressing the fear that holds you back from moving forward. Because that, when you distill it all down, whether it's betrayal or guilt or shame, at the core of every obstacle is always that subconscious fear. Like when you go right to the core of it, it always comes right back down to that. Because otherwise, we would just do it. We would just change. We would just
Yeah.
shift.
Yeah. Because I think sometimes people can get to a point where they're calm, they're comfortable, but there are also a lot of things that they haven't achieved that they want to, but they're afraid to take that next step because I'm in a good place. I'm okay. I'm staying here. But we need to move and grow and evolve.
And that's one of the, it's easy to go. I don't want to say easy because nothing's, it's, everything requires commitment, dedication, and effort when you're growing. But that's life. It's more obvious, I think that's a better word, to leave a toxic situation and to choose a better one. It's more challenging to leave a good situation to open up to a better opportunity. And I find that's actually where the fear really will hold people back because when we look at when people grow just out of the process of living without that intentional inner work being addressed, the fear of being where you are becomes less than the fear of not getting moving forward. And that's usually the tipping scale for people is, okay, now I'm in breakdown and I've got no other choice than to do this thing I've been avoiding. And for me, if I could change the world in one way, is to really support society in breaking down this pattern of needing a breakdown in order to have a breakthrough. Because you can move forward without not having any other option, which tends to be the default setting for most humans, and to no fault of our own, because fear is one of our biggest drivers. And but when we're pitting one fear against the other, which is the default setting, is well, staying here is scarier than going out into the wild. So I'm going to do that now. And most people will actually feel that switch going where it's okay, I got to move. And it's okay because you've stayed there for so long. Now you've created kind of a world of hurt for yourself. And it's less scary to go out to where you haven't been yet. Because the subconscious is naturally afraid of anything outside of your comfort zone because it's unknown and it doesn't have a pre existing pattern for it because it hasn't been there before. And so, how it prioritizes things as safety first, joy last. And so, on a conscious level, it's actually the opposite. So, the depth of the work that I do is getting your subconscious in alignment with your conscious mind. Because we want that incredibly powerful employee to be working for you, not against you. Because your subconscious is like 95% of everything that you do.
That's wild. Yeah, I love that. And that makes so much sense. Safety first, joy last. You can't enjoy yourself until you cross all these check marks off.
When I discovered that in my trainings, it was like a light bulb went off for me. I was like, oh, shoot, no wonder. And then it was like, okay, so how do we change this? And so it was about getting them in congruency with each other and being like, so what does a subconscious need in order to recognize that this new opportunity is safe? Because that's basically always at the core of what needs to happen.
Yeah, fear the unknown. I'm not safe because I haven't gone down that path yet.
That reptilian mind that we have at the back is a lot more powerful than we tend to realize. It has such a subtle influence in everything that we do, especially if we don't let ourselves become aware of it, because we're just in our natural state of being, so we don't pick up on it.
So that's a great lead into what would be like a first step that someone could do to when they recognize that I'm hitting my head against the wall, I'm not moving, I know I can do it, or I really want to know that I can do it, but I can't get there. What's just a small step or a change or a forward movement that someone could do who's listening?
I love that you asked that because it really speaks to what we are talking about before is fear. So fear has the most power in the shadow. And as soon as you take the moment to say, so what am I afraid of if I did make the change? And as soon as you bring that fear into the light, it loses that power over you. Because then you're like, is that reasonable? Is that likely? Is that really going to happen? Is that fear? So people will think I'm this or that. Big deal. I'm suffering over here. So you start to take the power away from that unknown, unseen fear by naming it. One of the things that I would suggest that precedes that question, which is always my first step for everyone, no matter what they're doing, is get grounded. If you're like, oh my God, I got to change my situation, and you're all frantic, that is no place and it's no way to ask a powerful question. You're going to get like all your worst case scenarios are going to sound like they actually make sense. Get nice and grounded. So the breath is such a powerful portal to access the power of the subconscious mind. Take a few, and I know it's so basic, but it's so powerful. Take a few calming breaths. A real quick and dirty way of doing it, name 5 things in the room out loud, right? Get back to yourself, get yourself back together. And
Yeah.
then, what am I really afraid of? And be open to no matter how crazy the answer is, be open to hearing it.
Yeah. I love that. It's almost like when you have a hard conversation you need to have with someone and you're carrying it around and you're not realizing that your whole body is all stressed out and all scrunched up. And like you said, sometimes I'll just find myself going, like, I had no idea that everything was all scrunched up because it was all rolling around in my head. And then sometimes talking to someone about it, like you said, brings it to light. Now it's not in here, it's moving out there, and you can look at it in a little more of a perspective. We do that sometimes when we do like a brain dump. It's like all these things are going on in my head and I can't grab one. And so it's like, all right, just take a piece of paper. And I've written 3 pages full of stuff that's going on in my head. And it's almost such a release or a relief, like, whew, got that out. Okay, now I can look at it and say, which one needs to be done first? I can prioritize and knock things off. Stuff. Would you say that might be a good idea as well?
I love me a good brain dump. And I feel like we don't do it enough. It's if I let anything go, then things are going to start falling apart. But when you think about it, every night we go to bed with that incredible to-do list that will never get done. And then we bring it into the next day. And we do that for 20 years. And then we wonder why we're all stressed out and overwhelmed. It's because you haven't been purging those old files. If you kept everything on your desk you ever thought about your whole life, your office would be a mess. And so our brains turn into that too. So I love a good brain dump. Journaling, free writing is one of my favorite things to do. And I find that's actually one of my favorite ways to ask that hard question of what am I afraid of? And I just start writing because I don't have the opportunity to start dismissing or judging what's coming through because I'm just writing without thinking. And then I look at it. And then I'm always sure to not dismiss, not judge, not that's stupid, right? Because then you're just dismissing yourself, you're dismissing your fear, and then you're definitely not going to get that other part of you to work with you if you're already shutting it down.
Yeah.
And that's where the work that we do really come in place is okay, now we know what the fear is. How do we get it on board? Because I don't know if you have kids, but for anyone who's ever tried to bring a child anywhere, doesn't matter if they're yours or not, and they don't want to go, trying to get them in the car and just shoving them in there doesn't work very well because the whole trip is chaos. But when you sit with them before they get in the car and you're like, hey, what's going on? I'm afraid of, I don't want to go. That teases me. Okay, let's talk about that. Let's see what's happening. Let's get you on board with going so that we can have a fun trip there together. So that's how I really like to work with the subconscious is recognizing that it's a part of us that has been programmed between 0 and 7. And a lot of times it feels like a toddler and really honoring the fact that it's a very powerful toddler because it's running 95% of your life, right? So we need to get it on board. How do we do that in the best way? And that's where probably why I love learning so much because through all the different modalities that I've learned is everyone has a different point of entry to get to that inner place, and it's always different for different people, different for different topics, different for different times. And so discovering that point of entry to that inner world to bring cohesion is for me it's like a puzzle. It's okay, what's the point of entry going to be? So how do we get to where we want to be from where we are right now? And what's really fun is when you tune into the subconscious, the soul, spirit, whatever you want to call it, it already knows the roadmap. So it really makes my job quite easy.
I love that. That's awesome. So tell us a little bit about maybe a client or two that have, so you can illustrate even more for us where they were when they came to you and then where they were when they left.
Yes, the person that comes to mind, and so one of my clients, Natalie, she's shared this in videos and stuff, is she came to me with the belief that she had to go back to university to get a degree in order to get a better job to be able to basically raise her boys because I've maxed out on what I can do with a high school diploma here. And so when she came to me, that was her thinking. And within a few minutes, I just tuned into her and I said, Nat, I said, what I'm getting is that you can make 12K more right now without changing anything other than your perception that you need to go take 4 years of university in order to recognize that you have this value. And what's really fun is within 6 months, we did a coaching program together and she had increased her salary by $20,000. So she even outgrew that by doing just, we did a little bit more work. And one of the issues that she would have when she would start a new role was it was hell for 3 months. She's like, oh, Anik, like every time I start a new job, because she came in for her coaching session, she's, oh, I'm so excited about this new job. It's like way more money, it's way more fun. It's near the beach. I'm like loving my life. And she said, but every time I start a new job, it's always hell for 3 months because I feel like I don't know anything and I gotta ask and I'm messing things up. And she had put so much pressure on herself. So we did just one session on that. And what was so fun, and she shares it in one of her video testimonials, is she's now the cheerleader. She goes, I've never started a new job and felt this good going in and having so much success in it. And like she jumped the ranks so quickly even after that. That's Natalie's story. And what's really fun is that story is not uncommon. So that's people think like, how can I make more money? I know that's like kind of an important goal for a lot of people for obvious reasons. But one of the other clients that comes to mind is she walked in and she's, Anik, I've been with my husband for 45 years and I'm getting all of my kids' stuff out of my basement because I'm leaving this man because I've been waiting for him to do this and this whole time and it's just not working for me. And as much as I love him, like I can't do it anymore. And so she came in preparing for divorce. And so we started with the inner work is what do you want in a relationship? What's going to make you happy? Because it had been just about everybody else her whole life. And what's really interesting is within 3 months, I would get messages from her. She's like, what did you do to my husband? He's like, do this. He made that decision. He's never done this before. And what's really fun is as soon as she got clear and stepped into an empowered state of what she deserved and what she needed and what she wanted, her partner was just following her lead this whole time. And he stepped up to the plate. Within a year, he had retired from his business, which was one of the things that I'm ready for retirement. Like, I want to have those golden years with this person that I love. And this is like dragging on. And what's really beautiful now is they're happily married, going on vacation, living their best life. And I look back and I'm like, sometimes they do get divorced or sometimes they stay together. But no, regardless of the outcome, what I witness my clients doing is they're empowered in the decision and the unfolding of what happened. Is whether they got divorced or, you know what, that was the best thing for both of us. And now we can move forward in harmony and co-parent like two mature human beings instead of two dramatic people still fighting with each other. And so those are just a couple of examples of where they had their mindset about where they had to move forward and what the outcome actually looked like as an extreme opportunity. But I've seen people increase their income by 75,000 in a year doing this kind of work. I've seen people who have been like desperately single, going out with all the wrong guys, meet their soulmate and married within a few months. So what's really fun is like when you step into your best self, life responds to that in such a beautiful way. So I
Life,
guess that would be like some of the fun things that I've gotten to see over the years.
yeah, I love that. Life and people start to respond because that woman's husband, like you said,
Exactly.
was following her lead. And it was when she showed him either spoke it or physically showed it, then he knew what she wanted. Oh, those are amazing stories. Give me shivers.
Well,
Nick, go ahead.
we don't realize that we teach people how to treat us, right? And so that's true. Like when someone commands respect, you feel it when they walk into the room. Everyone, oh, there's so and when someone sneaks in and doesn't, everyone responds to them without even, and this is so subconscious. It's not about being nice or mean or good or bad. It's you naturally respond to the frequency that somebody's giving you. We do that all the time.
Wow, this is fantastic. Nick, I know there are people listening to us who are going, oh my gosh, this woman is the person that's going to help me with my next step and get to being my best self. So, what is the best way for them to reach out to you?
On masteringascension.com is a great way to reach out to me. That'll bring them to me and all the different products or I shouldn't say products, different types of programs that I offer, small, medium, and large. And they can also reach me on social, Facebook, Instagram, anyone that you like, except I'm not on Twitter or TikTok. So other than those two, basically all the other ones. I think you have those links as well for them below. But I'm fairly easy to reach. So whether it's the website or the social, send a message and either myself or my team will get back to them
I
with
love
a plan on where they are to where they want to be.
Yeah, I love that. Did we talk about, do you have an ideal client? It sounds like you work with people of different ages. I'm assuming it's men and women, business wise, personal wise.
Well, what's interesting is that's been such a challenge for me to identify over the years, but I have clarified it because when you do that inner work, it doesn't matter boy, girl, they, them. It really doesn't matter who you are as a person. But what they all have in common is that they are normally soul-led professionals. So somebody who has the openness to tune in to their higher wisdom, to their inner their inner wisdom, higher wisdom, whatever the belief structure is too. So you don't have to have a specific belief structure, as long as you recognize that there is this oneness energy that connects us all, and you're willing and ready to tune into what your soul or higher self has to share with you, and allow that higher wisdom that's within you to guide you. So that's what all of my clients have in common, is they have the dedication, the commitment, and the capacity to be ready, willing, and able to face the hard truths that are going to come out and still choose themselves. And so that's what they all share, the clients that I work with. And many of them tend to be professionals, although I do have clients who are homemakers, and I have clients that are retired. So it's more about the mindset than anything else.
Yeah. You can't coach someone who doesn't want to be coached.
Exactly.
Like that kid who doesn't want to go in the car. They need some nurturing first.
They have to be open to the idea, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, this has been so fun. I have one last question to ask you. If you could give the world one tip to make it a better place, what would that be?
A better person creates a better world. So the only thing that you can control in life is yourself, how you think, how you feel, how you behave. So if you just work on making you a better you, everyone else benefits and the world benefits. Because just imagine if our world were made up of better versions of all of us. It would just naturally be a better world. And so that's something that we all have access to, is how we show up and making that a priority. Because if you really want to change the world in a positive way, start at home, start right here.
Oh, what a beautiful way to end. Yes, you have it within you to affect so many other people in a positive way by taking care of yourself. Oh, Anik, this has been such a pleasure. I so appreciate you being here and spending some time with me today and sharing all your wisdom with our listeners.
Thank you so much. I loved our conversation. I can't wait to share it with the world.
Beautiful. Thanks for joining us today on Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights. We hope you're leaving this episode with inspiration to take your coaching business and your life to the next level. If you found value in this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe and share it with someone else who you think might benefit from hearing it. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.